Hi, this is Nancy McClelland, and this video is being done for Scrap Mania. I have a card class coming up in February that is on shaker cards. So I am going to show you a little bit about how we put the shakers together. The kit has 8 cards in it, and during the class we're going to work on 6 of those. So you have extra cards in the kit that you can put together. But what I'm going to do, and the purpose of this today, is to show you how to put the little shaker pieces together. Once you figure out how to do the little shaker pieces, you will, be able to put them together, and it'll be no big deal at all. So I will go through and show you how I start that process and what we're going to do. You would get a kit like this that you have 4 different packs in it. So hopefully you read at the front not to tear into this, because this cellophane right here, this packaging is what we're going to use as our shaker portion for this. So I wanted you to be sure that, that you have 2 cards packed in one, and we'll use those for our class, for our class, and then I'll show you what we're going to do with those, today. I keep all of my packaging. I know that there's a couple of these that you have that have the hang part on there, and they have some adhesive. I know that Stacy's ordered packs in the store that we have that are more conducive to like card fronts, and we've packaged them in packs of 50, and they are just an open pouch. They don't have the sticky, and they don't have the hang on that. So when you have something like this, though, this is like 2 because it's 2 pieces, so you'll get 2 actual cards out of one of these. So the first thing I'm going to show you, and what I think is important, is you have your supplies, is you have score tape. You don't want to use liquid. I don't think you want to use a tape runner or anything like that. Liquid gets to be, I feel, a little bit difficult, and it's going to ooze out, even though it's on the back of the card. But if that's what you think you want to use, give it a try. But I use 1/8 inch score tape. I really don't think you need to use 1/4 inch, but if that's what you have, try 1/4 inch. That'll be fine. So I'm just going to take a piece of paper here, and we'll just say that this is the front side. And I'm going to take my score tape, and I'm going to lay it on the edge, and this is the back side. And this tape tears. I'm not sure if this is Miracle or Score, but it tears. And I go to the edge, and then I fold back this little piece of the backing, because I want to go all the way to the edge, all the way around. So I don't want to just butt my my tape. That's me personally. That way, if I just butt it there, I may get something that may not give me as good of a seal. So I want a good seal. So I work my way around. Now, when you get to this end here, you've got 2 ends. So you'll have to pop it up on both ends. So I just fold it back, and then I pop it down. You should have a little diagram in your instructions. But this is how I do it, okay? So we've just got tape all the way around it, okay? So I'm going to do that one more time for you. This is one that's got a little Valentine, so on the front. So just again, I'm going to take the score tape. I'm going to lay it on the edge, and I just tear my tape. Okay, then I'm just going to use my scissors or my pointy tool, and I pull it back up again. And again, I know we sell Miracle tape and the score tape, and I definitely believe in the score tape when you're building a book. I think it's important that you use that. But I think if you're just using something like this just as a convenience tape to hold down your acetate, the Miracle tape is excellent, and you get probably about twice as much, I believe, in a pack. So it's fine. But I find that for me, this best process is for me to use the tape. I think it's just better that way. So there I've done. I've got all the way around. I've lifted the edges as I've gone, so I know that I have a complete seal all the way around this, okay? So once again, if you have a cut apart or you have a bunch of panels that you think you want to make into shaker cards, just sit and put the tape on them. That's something that you can do. So now we need to pick up some acetate. So this particular piece of acetate right here, once again, I'm just going to cut that off, and then now it's open all the way through there. And I really won't need the tape portion, and I probably won't be able to use anything where that fold was, unless that's the fold that I use where it goes around the side of my card. So the next thing I do is, you can do this on a tape, on a cutter or anything like that, but it doesn't have to be perfect for me. I just want to get my pieces of acetate. And again, you can use like a large 12 by 12 if you want, but I now have my piece of acetate. So these are 3 by 4 cards. I can lay this on there. I actually started this video and I don't believe I have a ruler in my midst, but I don't need a huge amount to fold over. You can fold over, you can make it like, this is a 3 by 4. You could make this a 4 by 5, and then you'd have like a 1/2 inch all the way around. I laid this on here, and that's going to get a little close, I think, for my folding or for my comfort. So again, I'm not going to be able to use the other portion of this. So I'm just going to take it and I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to trim that, and then I'm just going to, again, I am eyeballing. It does not have to be perfect. No one's going to see any of that, okay? So basically, I've got this piece. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can do this. I particularly don't take the time to take and 45 the corners, but I will show you how that would be done, and I would kind of lay this out a little differently if I was going to 45 the corners. A lot of people like kind of like an envelope corner, and I don't know if I can get you to see this. That doesn't help. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut that corner off here like a 45, and I'm going to cut this one off at a 45. So I think if you can see that off of the reflection, that's no longer there. Okay, so I have to lay this down. That's the way I do it. And I just take off one end, and then I'll fold this up. And that way, I've got that folded on there, and there's like a little bit of a 45 corner. Okay, so now what I would do, and I feel a little better because that's secure there and it's not slipping around. I can go over here and just take, and I can 45 the corner on that one, okay? This one isn't very close over there. But then what I would do is I would take off this portion, and I would take off this portion. I tend to leave one of the thinner or the most narrow portion of mine with the tape on it, because that's where I'm going to fill my sequins. Okay, so, or my shaker bits. I just folded that over. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this one over, and I didn't get that one folded quite like I wanted it to. And again, with the score tape, you can kind of peel it up and you can make it go back on there again. So I can just kind of fold it. And what happens on the back side really doesn't make any difference because you're never going to see that. Okay, so now I have my shaker pouch. Okay, so I've got a shaker pouch done. I can fill this shaker pouch and then it's ready to go. I really don't have a lot here. Let me think here. Look, I got a flower. I've just done a flower. That flower can go in there. I've got a few odd shaker bits or some sequins laying around here. Let's see. So I take this little, I like these little trays. I know Stacy has some little trays at the store. I think there's some little white ones. And a lot of times you can put them in there. There's a lot of things. I have these little spoons and you can put some things in there. So there's a lot. I think I got a lot of the purple ones in there. There's some really hunky ones in this batch, it looks like. So I'll kind of go through here and with my fingers just kind of mix them in a little bit. And this may not be a very good shaker example, but I've just put some shaker bits in there with that flour and they can run around. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the backer off of this piece and seal that up. Okay, so now it's completely sealed up. I have like a flour inside of there and I've got some shaker bits, okay? So they'll kind of just move around a little bit. So you can put flowers, you could put like any type of confetti, anything you want in there. So I've got that put together. I'm just gonna dump the rest of this shaker in there and then I've got that cleaned up a little bit, okay? The other thing that I can do is, another thing to kind of show you is I know that we've got these, but any type of a powder bag, these are the powder tools. A lot of times I'll powder my little pouch to keep the static out, and I can even, my fingers, if you have a problem with getting the sequins and things like that, if they're everywhere. Okay, so there's one way, and that was the one that I 45 the corners, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this, and here's the other piece that I've got. This again is a 3x4. So what we're going to do is we're just going to trim it down off this end because I really don't need all that. And I'm going to, I have about a 1/2 to 3/8 of an inch that I leave on there. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because when I put this on my card, no one's going to see the backside. Okay, so this one I lay this down. Okay, this is my end that's completely, I think it has to do with, how I lay it, but there, this is laying down. I leave this one on. Now on this one, I take all 3 of them off, okay? Because I've not trimmed the corners. And what I'm doing is I'm just picking this up and I'm folding it over. And what I do is fold the 2 long sides or 2 sides in, okay? Then I take this bottom one and I fold that up. And you can say, well, Nancy, that really doesn't look very nice because you've got all that extra bulk right there that's out. Well, what I do is I just like pinch them up at like a 45. Sometimes I'll put them into my fingers or I'll pull them up. I'll take a pair of scissors and what I do is I just trim in. So I've really mitered that corner quite a bit and I took that out. So that's what I do. To me, it's just as easy and it looks just as clean and you'll never see it just like I did on the 45s. But it's you do you, you do what's best for you. So now I've got my shaker pack. I happen to have a few pieces of bits of stuff that are here on my desk that are some Valentine stuff that's left over. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to fold it shut, press it down. Once again, I'm going to pull up these little corners and just trim them. So I've cleaned up the corners a little bit. And again, it doesn't look any different or any worse than this one back here. So there's this particular one. I've got a little heart that's kind of sitting up, and there's like a little Valentine packet right there. So you could set and make little packets like this if you had birthday cards. Let's say that you were doing something and you had a cut apart for little boys or something. You could put a bunch of things together that way. So that's the basic way that I put together my shaker packet. So they're sealed, they're ready to go. They're super, super thin. You know, there's really no bulk that's added. Now, I'm the queen of, I should say, foam tape. I like foam tape, hence I buy foam tape like this. So I'm going to be adding some dimension when I do it, but that's, again, totally up to you. My suggestion on something like this is to use a liquid glue. You could use score tape again, or I would say an ATG gun. I really don't know if dot runner is as well, and it sticks to the backing where you've got this overlap of acetate. You could trim a little bit of it out, but that, again, I can get it pretty close. Then I use that 1/8 inch score tape. So I would be able to trim that if I needed to. But I find that one of those options works the best for this, okay? And foam tape works because it's got a lot of sticky to it. So that's the basic information on how to do those. So we are going to take this packet right here. I am going to, and once again, what did I do? I forgot to bring my scoreboard over here, but we won't need the card bases much. I think you can figure that one out. I don't have to do those. But here are the pieces for this particular card. We do have a card base, okay, would be a top folding. This is going to be a panel. Then we're going to have another panel here. This is our shaker panel. And I took this one and I like to border them just a little bit with some layers. And then we have our sentiment strip. So what we're going to do first is we're going to turn this over on the back side and we are going to build our shaker packet. Okay. So again, I like to be able to be sure that I've got a good seal on here. Not that there's anything that's going to get out. On my one little shaker card that I put together for the Valentine one that I showed you just now, there are some tiny, tiny, tiny little micro beads in there. That's a Dress My Craft one. And, you know, you might want to be careful. I don't do a lot of glitter because I think glitter sticks to the front of your acetate, even though this is, you know, packaging, not as much acetate. But that's just my option at that point. So I've got this covered on the back side, what we've been doing. Okay, so here's the rest of the packaging. I'm going to take this rest of this card out and I'm going to just lay it to the side. Some of your packagings have the tape on them and some of them don't. It's kind of what I had in my inventory. So I'm just going to cut that off because we're not going to be using that anyway. So what I'm doing is I'm coming down here. I am opening that up. And again, I'm opening this. I'm just cutting it. And now I have a big piece of acetate. Now, you could actually just cut it in two again. Once again, you're not going to be able to probably use anything that has that fold on it. And this particular piece of acetate is for this card and the one that we laid aside. Okay, so it's going to be big enough. This, again, is about a 3x4. So this is a little wider than what the other piece was that I had. So I save all my packaging. Anything that's worth it, I save it. Now, this is a piece here that you might be able to do a small square if you were doing something fun in the middle of a card. So I'll lay that piece aside. Now, I am not going to do the mitering. The mitering is just, to me, that's an extra step I don't need to do. But I've laid this on top of my work surface. I centered it. I'm going to take these 3 pieces off, okay, of my backers. I'm going to fold this over, and then I'm going to fold this over. And don't make it too tight, because that'll make your paper bow, and you really don't want that. If you wanted it to be a little looser because you put a lot of shaker in there or something large, you could. But then I'm going to take this particular piece and pop that one down there. So that's covered up. So now, once again, I've got my little flower shaker packet. Okay, now you have 2 packets of, you have two types of shaker products that you were provided. This is one of the packages that you were provided. And then you have another packet that is in a tin that's got some brown and some white. This is all that I had left of that neutral packet that I was, going to use. So that's all that I have left to kind of demo with. I'm going to pull out my powder tool, and I'm just going to put a little bit of powder on there just to kind of help it. Now, again, you could use any type of a plastic spoon. You can pour this, but I find that a lot of times it's just putting maybe a good spoonful into this mix, and I try to mix different things up, but a little spoon in there. This particular one has got some clear and the pinks and the golds, but I like to just put it in here, and you could use the spoon if you wanted to. But try to see how much I've got in there, because this makes it kind of look like a little seed packet. Okay, and I didn't put the whole thing in there, but I don't think I really need to put the whole thing in there. So I'm going to set that off to the side. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take this off of here, and I'm going to close my shaker packet up. Okay. Now, because I did not miter the corners, what I want to do is I want to come in and I just kind of pinch these corners up so they're 45 between my fingers. And I just pick them up and I just basically go through there and I trim those out. So again, if it's easier for you to just cut that 45 and you like that look of that 45, cut that, but this is not bulky. That little bit of fold, you don't see any of that on the front side. So there is my shaker pouch at that point. That shaker pouch is done. So what we're going to do is this shaker pouch is going to go on the top of this piece of paper. Okay, so I'm going to use an ATG gun and just go over this. And in fact, my ATG is not sticking to that at all. I don't think it's stuck. Well, no, I did get some. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and put just a little bit of glue, liquid, on there, just to be sure that it's going to stick to that piece. Okay. So it's just going to layer on top of this. I can hear, if you hear anything, I can hear the wind blowing outside as I'm recording this. So basically, if you can hear the wind, I'm sorry. It's whisking quite a bit. I did have some ATG on there. It's not sliding as well as I wanted it to. Okay. So we put this on here. If I can get it straight. Okay, there we are. So I have that shaker pouch done, okay? So now what I want to do is I want to have that popped up with foam tape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of foam tape off that I can work with instead of my roll. And just for stability, I go all the way around. I prefer to use roll tape than pieces of, you know, little pop dot things. I don't mind using the pop dots, but I think something like this, the roll tape works better, okay? So I put that around there. And usually what I do is I put a small amount right there in the center just to give it the stability that it's going to need. So I'm going to take the backing off. Okay. And put this on the pink piece of paper. And it gets, you know, put there. Now I'm going to layer this with my ATG gun. And again, this is just the easiest for me. That's why I like this, most economical. You could use your dot runner or whatever, the adhesive that you want to put cards together, okay? And there's that. Now, I did not score my card base. I am not in favor of just folding them, but we will just fold this for sake of this. And we're going to use this little tray. Okay. And then this will go on top of there. And then the last thing that we have to put on there is our sentiment. And the sentiment strip has been cut for you. The only thing I did not do is I flag, like cut a little flag end on one side. So I put this on here. You can run it across the front of this. You can run it wherever you want it to go. I will just cut that. Then I cut this. The way I flag is I cut in and then I cut to the center of those points there. And I think that gives you a good little flag. Mine's not very straight. Naturally, if I'm trying to do it on camera, it's not going to be as straight as I want it to be. Okay, so this can be put directly on here. This can be put with a tiny little bit of foam tape once again. And by doing something like that, I just go down and they make the strips, which are fabulous. But what I'll do is I'll just cut a little bit of my foam tape into a strip. And then put that on there. Okay, so I'm going to try to move my sequence up so that when I lay this on here, and again, I'm going to lay it on at that point there. Okay, and so there we are. We have one shaker card done. Okay, so there's that shaker card. Now let's go ahead and pull the shaker that is in the other piece that you had, okay, that was in that pack. And it is a kind of a 4.5 by 4.5 in its card base, okay. So we've got the card base on that put together. And you will have a black square. That'll be the base that we're going to work on. And then you have a printed triangle, and then you have a sentiment and a triangle. So this is just a top fold. And again, if you don't want it to be top fold, you want it to be side fold, it's a square. You can turn it around. And those are the pieces. This is how it's going to go together. So now what we're going to do is take the triangle that we've got here, and I am going to, once again, put my score tape on the back of this. Okay, I'm going to pick up this edge. And take this all the way to the edge. And actually I need to pull this edge up too so I get all the way to the end. So think about the shapes. Circles would be a little difficult to do, but triangles or rectangles or squares. So now we've got basically our score tape on all of those sides, and it's white. It's kind of hard to see. I think this is a photocopy of the paper since we were short on some of the paper. But now I've got my piece of acetate. So we're basically doing the same thing on this that we've done on the other one, is that we're going to lay it down there, and what I'm going to do is I am going to just trim that out, and this is actually probably enough to do another one of our triangle cards and not even have to, you know, do anything with that. With this particular one, I am going to cut that corner off. You can see that I cut that corner off, and I'm going to cut this one off. I think that that will help with the bulk of that, so I did cut those corners off. Okay? But I'm going to lay this down on my desk again, and I'm going to peel my tape up. And I'm going to peel up, I was wanting to peel up these two sides. Okay, I'm going to peel those up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this side in, and we'll still have a little bit of trimming to do, okay? And then I'm going to take this side and trim it in. And I could have 45 this bottom corner if I wanted to, but I don't have a problem with picking this up and just making a 45 on my own at that corner, okay? So now what we have is the pieces put together, okay? I've got an empty slot right there. Now I do have some extra here from the last card that I'm just gonna put in here. And this one was a multi, you could put anything in there, but these are the multi-sequins. This being a little triangle, this isn't gonna take much of the sequin to put in there. It's going to be probably fine with that amount, but we could put just a few more in. I'm going to put them in my tray, but I don't want a whole bunch of those in there because this isn't a huge piece. And so I'm just going to put a few of those lighter ones in there. Okay. So now what we've got is this last piece of acetate to fold over. And I can see that I have a little tiny piece right here that I could trim out, but it's going to just fold over perfectly fine, because as I fold this back, that little piece on this side folded in, if you can see it. So, you know, this is flipping up, but all I have to do is trim that off. So it's just a matter of, you know, working with it, and I have everything has been held down with the adhesive. And once you put this on your card front, again, that's very, very flat. You can see there's, you know, really nothing hanging out. So I've kind of got a little bit of a 45 on that at that point. I find that I wind up with little acetate pieces every place. But so you just have a little acetate packet there, and it's got shaker bits in it. So it could have I could have put some more in there, but again, that's a small triangle, so it really doesn't require a bunch of them, okay? So at that point, I'm going to take this particular piece of paper here, and this is the piece that's going to go on the card. And it's going to go directly onto my card front here. Okay. And I will put these guys together here. These two need to, I'll layer them on top of each other. and they'll go together. And in your instructions, I pretty much direct glued these down. So I can take either a tape runner or I can take liquid adhesive. It doesn't really make any difference at this point. But these two pieces here, your sentiment one and your corners, are going to go together. And then it's going to go here. Now, how this card has been built is to have just a small framework around that. So we can go ahead and put this piece on, and it can go directly on the card. Up here, I have little shaker pieces all over my desk, little tiny holes. And on this particular one, I decided that I would pop this one up just a little bit. Now, I do have black foam tape that I use from time to time, and it's super sticky, but we're going to use the black foam tape for this. And I'll trim out the corners as I go with it. I have lots of different pairs of scissors, as you can tell on my desk here. I do like these little Tim Holtz scissors the best to work with this sticky glue type of stuff. Okay, so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just lay it on here, and then I'll just come up here and pull my angle. This black tape is super, super sticky, but I do like black when I'm dealing with something that is a dark card. Okay, so I still have a little bit of adhesive right there sticking out. Okay, so I've put my foam tape on there. And it is going to go at the bottom down here and just fill out. So that's a very simple little card. It really has no dimension to it at all. You know, there's nothing really that's got any dimension to it. It's got some fun. I've put that, so really there's no dimension that I've got on there at all. So basically, very simple, fun little card. So that finishes the card in that pack, okay? So you have two cards that are completed. We have these two that are done now. And we are going to do one more card, I think, because I really don't know that it's going to be important to do another one. And we're going to take this one out. This is the black one. And I believe that I had this other half left from my last card. I will not need to cut this packet open to do anything for this particular card. So I'm going to go ahead and use this piece. So we have a black card base. You're going to get a piece of paper that goes, it's a white piece. Whenever I give you a black base or a dark base, I always give you a blank piece of paper to fill on the inside when you want to write. So that's what that is. This particular piece is a blue that's got a hexagon, not really chicken wire, but it's hexagon embossing on it. You have a black dot, and you have this little floral that I punched out. You have the sentiment, just a note, and then we have our little part that's going to be the shaker portion. So we have this piece right here that will work perfectly fine. So let's prepare our shaker once again on the back side, and we're going to put down our adhesive, and once again I'm using my 1/8 inch score tape and just popping these corners up. Okay. And I need to get down here and pop this one up so I can get underneath it. Okay. So there we have it. We have our little triangle. I'm making sure that that's all down. The corners are flipped up. Here is our triangle of acetate right here. So I am going to trim off that excess, okay? So you can see I have a triangle of acetate. And trimming the corners, it does help, I think, on the corner, on this one. So I'm gonna actually just kind of trim off the corner there. I'm going to trim off the corner there. Now, I need to put it back where it was since I touched the tape. And trim my corner there. Okay, so I've trimmed out that excess of the leftover of the acetate. So I'm gonna lay this down, okay? I'm gonna take my strips off. I love picks or scissors to work with that. So we've got it in its area here. It's ready to go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just pull this section down and seal that off. So there's that one sealed off. Okay, then I just flip it because it's easier for me for me to pull down. Okay, and I'm turning it again and I'm turning down. Okay, so I have a pretty good 45 right here, but you can see I have a little bit of left over hanging out. So all I need to do is come in here with my scissors and I just trim that out, okay? So it's just a matter of trimming it out on the back side, and that's very, very thin. I didn't feel any shaker bits though, did I? Wow. That was probably kind of crazy for me. Let me see if I can get one of the corners up again. So that's another thing that I have done that before. So if you can get one of the corners up off of there, the most that's going to happen is that you're going to have to put some more adhesive back on there. So there, I was able to get that up and open. There you saw me do the mistake of all there. So here is another little tray here. This one, I thought that it needed to have the neutral to it, because the little bees, I didn't want the pink in there. So there's some of the neutral. I really would like to get a little bit of the black. I mean, there's some brown in here. Again, I have very little, so there's some brown. And let's put that in there. Okay. So let me see if I'm gonna need to. And once again, that's down there. Because I peeled that up again, I'm just going to take a piece on the outside of that seam, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of score tape right there, only because there was a fair amount of sticky there. But usually I can get back in them if I just do something stupid like that. So there we have our little shaker card, okay, with all the little shaker bits. Now how this card is going to work is we'll put all this together, but this particular piece here just goes on the edge of your card, okay? So if you had extra pieces or you wanted it to be super large, you could, but this is just an accent flare is what it is. And then this goes on there, the front. So we will take this, and you can use the emboss, deboss, whatever is the most, your favorite side of this. I'm gonna leave that out for now. That's not really as important, but I like the bumpier side. I like that to be on the front of the card. That's kind of what I like. Trying to do this, I'm not up over that, so trying to get it relatively straight without being on top of it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to do a direct glue of this particular piece, okay? We'll see if we can get a little bit of score tape, or I shouldn't say that, ATG, which is sticking to this. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put some liquid adhesive on there, because this is going to allow me a better placement by doing, when you're doing foam tape, instead of, once you put it down, a lot of times it's done. So this is a little bit of goopy, I should say. It gives me a little bit of slidability. And also I think what's going to happen is this will help with the texture that I have on my base and help it grip. So I've got some liquid adhesive on there. Okay, so if you have a block or anything like that you can sit on it, you can just lay your block, but I'm pushing that down really well. So then these are the last couple of pieces that I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this little floret flower, and I'm using liquid. I use a combination of liquids and all the different glues. I give them all a little love, and I'm going to put it on that black circle. And you choose how you think that you like this to look. It really doesn't make any difference. Again, because I'm dealing with a lot of the black, I am going to go ahead and use my black my black foam tape, and I'm going to put just a couple of pieces of foam tape on the back of this, okay? And I'm also going to put a little bit of liquid on there just to be sure that I can move it and it's like I want it to be. And I think another thing that's important too is when you've got this little bit of bulk over here, you want to get it on there and be sure that, it's not going to conflict too much on the acetate. But again, it can be a little off-centered. You could even move it, because I've got that liquid, I can move it just a little bit further if I really want it to be in the center. And that's just got a little bit of height. And again, we don't have much bulk on that whatsoever. And then that will go down. Now, the just a note, I have it just going down here at the bottom of the card. Again, this is kind of an off-white. I have some leftover foam tape over here that's just a neutral. I'm gonna stick that there, cut that off, take my backer off, and once again, I am going to put a little bit of glue. That will just give, again, the opportunity for this to move a little bit if I need to it, but it's also gonna stick. So I'm just gonna stick it right down there at the bottom, okay? And the last thing you're going to do is, this is that piece of white card for inside. Again, this would stick very nicely if you just wanted to use dot runner, and a lot of times I'll just go back and put dot runner and, on those. And so that finishes off the card, so you can write or put another sentiment in there. So that's how you do the triangle. So we've done this triangle. And again, this was just the back of the paper. The bees were on the back of that printed paper that you had. That was not exactly a cut apart, but I treated it as a cut apart. And I just added an accent on there. This was a piece I just took a punch and cut it out. So we have the two there, and then we have this particular one. Most of the rest of them are just, they're basically just putting them together the way we did that on the other ones. Like the other piece that's in here, again, it's going to be a rectangle piece. I will write on the instructions that you have on the instructions how I did them. A lot of times if I put a backer on here, I basically put my shaker part directly to the backer, then I almost always put foam tape on that to give it some dimension, okay? So that's how most of mine are done, but it's totally what you want to do. This is the only other thing here with this particular one. I chose to basically hand cut these out. So all I'm saying for you to do is just to do a little bit of a hand cutting. And it's very simple. This particular one did not have a die with it. I can't remember if this is a Taylor one off the hand or if this was a Gina K one. But I just go around, and when I fussy cut or hand cut something, turning the paper is what makes the whole deal. So that's your sentiment on this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of liquid adhesive, okay, and I'm going to put that on there. And I have this little piece. A lot of times I'll use this as a little bit of a brush just to spread some of that out. And what you also have is a piece of pretty heavy vellum, and basically that is stuck to the vellum, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around it again, and again, it's going to be probably a little bit smaller, less areas in depth to go into. I tend to leave not even a quarter, but I like to just leave a little bit of a backer on there. And I think the most important thing I've heard somebody talk about right now is this does not, we make cards, they do not have to be perfect. These are handmade. These are not Hallmark, okay? So there's that particular piece. And what I did was then I put a piece of foam tape on the back of it, and then I popped it up after I made my shaker bit. So it would just go down here, and that's how I did that to add something. So I really think that this video gives you what you need to put together your cards. We went through how to do just the basics of building the shaker cards, and whether you choose to miter the corners on the back or you just choose to trim them out like I do. Again, try what you think works for you. I like the 1/8 inch score tape, but you may like to use something like a 1/4 inch. That may be better for what you want. You might try a tape runner if that's what you think works for you. Just have fun with it and understand that you can put a shaker on about anything. So if you have any questions at all, my information is inside the instructions. If you lose all that, call the store, Scrapmania, 319-377-9999. My number also is 319-533-5984. You can call me or text me. My email is nancy@designinventions.com. So I hope you enjoyed this class. I hope you enjoy making shakers as much as I have been making them, and this information was useful. Have a great day.